Hey guys, Silverhammer here with a Monarch deck profile post Shining Victories. Main reason I'm doing Monarchs right now instead of something that actually got support in Shining Victories is because none of my locals were having sneak peeks last weekend, and because of work, I haven't really been able to pick up anything new in the past couple days. So I am going to be working this weekend on getting some of the new support so I can start bringing the decks that I promised. But for right now, since Shiny Victories didn't really put anything out that affected Monarchs in my opinion, I wanted to go with that deck list so that I'm, still keeping up the one deck list per week. And let's just get into it. Now, I do prefer running a pure Monarch build. This isn't extra deck Monarchs. You're not going to see any of the stuff like Blue Layer and things like that. This is just pure Monarchs trying to work the synergy of their spells and everything, because I do think it works fairly well. So, of course, you're running Triple Ether. Great boss monster. His ability to summon on your opponent's turn is really useful. And plus the 2800, it's kind of hard to get over these days. And that's one of the big things about the Monarchs is a lot of the big tribute monsters are big monsters. So unless your opponent has some way to out it, usually you have control once you have one of the tributed monsters out on the field. And then, of course, like 3 Ether, we also have 3 Erebus. It's kind of self-explanatory these days. If you know Monarchs, you know why you're running each of these. Erebus's ability to spin just makes it really useful for plus oneing on your opponent and getting the jump on controlling their field, their hand, and everything like that. After that, I run 3 Idea and 3 Eidos. Idea grabs Eidos. Eidos gives you an extra tribute, so even if you don't have the field spell, you're able to get a Mega Monarch out by the end of your first turn. Both are really good. I actually have, because of my next text, which you're going to see in a second, Eidos, I believe it is really useful to run at 3, just because if I have an Eidos and either of these, my Vanities or Majesty's Fiends, you can, if you open with this, you have a pretty strong board setup, especially if you have Eidos and Majesty's Fiend. I've had games where I drop Majesty's Fiend first turn, and my opponent just scoops because they have no way of getting over 2400 at the time of the at the time of first turn, and so having Majesty's Fiend is just a little bit of a too good of a card. So that's it for my monster lineup. This is a 40 card deck. I'm considering making it a 41 or potentially 42 card deck with Dark Arm Dragon and Blackluster Soldier. Dark Arm Dragon, because it is a 24 1000, you are able to search it off of Return of the Monarchs, so it is useful in that aspect. And then because all the monsters in the deck are light and dark, having a BLS in there just kind of makes sense. But let's move on to the spells. I run triple Pantheism of the Monarch. You know why I run 3 of these. If you're running Monarchs, you have to run 3 of these. This is your draw power. This makes the deck a bit more consistent, bit less likely to have a brick hand, and just makes it an all-over better deck. So that's why you run 3. After that, triple March, or not March, Monarch Stormforth. Tribute your opponent's monsters without targeting them. Save your own resources, make your opponent neg. That's what Stormforth is useful for. It doesn't target, so that's why it's really good. So you can get around like your opponent's Dark Destroyer. You can get around their Eclipser. Anything that your opponent has that you normally can't target, you can use Stormforth for. So that's why it's really useful. And so the only thing that let's say Cosmos, because Cosmos is kind of the big beatdown deck currently with how Pepe was hit, or Draco Pals, whatever it's called currently. The only thing that could really stop Stormforth these days is a planet. And since at least the people that I talk to that are playing Cosmos They're only running one at most, so as long as you don't have a planet, you're pretty good to go. After that, 3 Domain of the True Monarch. I might bump this down to 2, but 3 right now just because I like being able to lock my opponent out of their extra deck. It's really useful. Plus the fact that it drops one of your Mega Monarchs down to a 6-star so that you can summon it with only a single tribute just makes it really useful. After that, 3 Tenacity of the Monarch, your Searcher. You need 3 of these cards just because of the fact that it adds a lot more consistency to the deck, makes it so you can get, basically any card you need to go off. After that, I run 2 of Frostblast of the Monarch. The ability to destroy set cards twice is really useful. So that way you can use it to clear, say, your opponent's Solemn Strike, their Warning, their Scolding, whatever they have set, cause Mojo, cause Mourning. Anything that they have set that could potentially stop you, you can use Frostblast of the Monarchs to take care of. And the fact that it works from Grave just adds a bit more consistency to it, makes it really useful. After that, I run 3 1-ofs. Return of the Monarch, your monster searcher, so you consistently have monsters on the field. March of the Monarchs, that stops your... as long as a monster you control is tribute summoned, your opponent cannot... monsters you control can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. So this is really useful, especially with Majesty's Fiend. If you have Majesty's Fiend and March on the field, your opponent really can't do anything. It's very hard for them to get over Majesty's Fiend alone at 2400. Plus the fact that it no longer can be destroyed or targeted by card effects because of March makes it a wall that I've had most players scoop against. And then lastly, 1-1-for-1, just to keep up the consistency, get your idea out, which gets your Eidos out, which lets you summon. So that's it for the spells. The trap lineup I actually have is relatively small. It's only 7 cards. I run triple prime just because it's a good defense, good tribute monster. A lot of consistency in the deck, so that's why it's useful. After that, I run 2 Dark Advance. I like teching this card in just because of the fact that it, in addition to recycling resources by giving me both Mega Monarchs and Vanity's Fiends from my graveyard back to my hand, it lets me summon during my opponent's turn. So if I have something small on the field and say my opponent, popped my Majesty's Fiend somehow, or, my Ether or whatever, and I do have monsters on the field, I can use Dark Advance when they're not expecting it and actually get a tribute summon out and bring out a big monster that they have to deal with again. So that's why I like running double Dark Advance. After that, I run 1 Escalation of the Monarch because tribute summoning during your opponent's turn is a lot of fun. And that's the main reason I do it, especially if you have Escalation of the Monarchs out and say a Monarch Storm 4th in your hand, on your field, it'll let you get a summon out using your opponent's monsters on their turn. So they can be attacking for, say, game, and you can take their biggest monster, drop a Monarch or a Fiend out, and then your opponent will potentially not even be able to get over it. So you have cost them their biggest monster, and you have a big monster on your side of the field now that they can't get over. And lastly, 1 Vanity's Emptiness. This is a final tech. I might be swapping this out for a Warning or... Well, I know it's not going to work for a Scolding, and I don't have the money for strikes. But Vanity's Emptiness, just because if you can establish a good board and then just set up Vanity's Emptiness, a lot of times there's nothing your opponent can do. Especially like the situation I was setting up where it's a Majesty's Fiend and say March of the Monarchs. If you also have a Vanity's Emptiness, they can't special summon, they can't activate effects, monster effects, and they also can't even target your Fiend for destruction. So there's very little your opponent can do in that aspect. So just locking down your board, which is kind of what this deck is going to be thriving on these days, is what's important. So that's it for my Monarch deck. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about it. If there's any kind of text that you might change, what you'd swap out, swap in. I don't run Karaz and I don't run Caius mainly because I don't have them, and then I also don't have the room for them. I found in this deck there are certain cards that I would potentially be able to take out for some Karazes and potentially a Caius, potentially a Thestalos. But those I would consider more as side deck cards based upon what I'm playing against, not so much main deck cards. But again, it's all up to your opinion. This is just my take on the build. But anyway, if you like the build, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what kind of decks you want to put out. You want me to put out. I actually really want to build Amorphages. I've been looking into that, and I picked up some of the cards, just not enough to actually make a deck. Morphages looks really good. I've picked up everything but the cattle calls I need for my Raid Raptor deck. I was gonna do that if I could get cattle calls, but I was only able to get one, and I think the deck needs 3 to really explode the way it should. So that's the main reason why I went with my Monarch build over my Raid Raptor build. But hopefully I will be able to put my Raid Raptor build online next week, though I might be keeping it secret until after the San Jose Regionals, which I'm going to be participating in, which is on the 14th. But it depends again on if I can get Amorphages and I can make it consistent. I'm actually probably going to run that over Raid Raptors, even though I'm really loving Ultimate Falcon's effect. So let me know down in the comments what you think. What should I run? Should I keep my Kaijus? The new Kaiju support is a lot of fun. It actually really, giving the ability to give your opponent a 0 attack monster is using Kaiju, Interrupted Kaiju Slumber is just really fun in my opinion. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. And this is Silverhammer signing out.